Start at number one. Y'all are crazy, man. You get a second chance to do better, and like, yeah, yeah. This again. Given that the sine is 8/9, find the tangent of theta. It doesn't tell you this is in a quadrant, does it? It's just a triangle, isn't it? That's all it is. It doesn't say that it lies somewhere. It's just a triangle. That's all it is. It's theta. Theta goes in the corner. From SOHCAHTOA, which, by the way, if you just took a form quiz and you couldn't write down SOHCAHTOA, it was literally written on that thing. Wasn't it? Anybody remember that? It's in the upper right-hand corner on that form quiz. It says beyond SOHCAHTOA. There were kids who didn't write down the acronym for trig. But from SOHCAHTOA, what's the sine ratio? Opposite over hypotenuse. So if I'm sitting pretty at theta, what length is opposite of theta? 8. What's the hypotenuse? 9. Why do I need this leg down here? Because I need tangent, which is opposite over adjacent. I need that leg. What little theorem will get it for you? Pythagorean. I'll call this guy A. A squared plus what squared? 8 squared is 9 squared. Then you figure out what 8 squared and 9 squared are, right? 9 squared is 81. You're going to take away 8 squared, which is 64. The difference between those two, if you got to push buttons, that's fine, but the difference between those two is 17. So what's that make A? Root 17. I hope nobody missed the first one, but I know full well you did. Here's your triangle. Now you want the tangent ratio, which is opposite over adjacent. You're at theta. What is opposite of it? 8. And what's next to it or adjacent? Root 17. Aniston, how do you make that thing look pretty? No. Oh, you multiply by? There you go. Root 17 over root 17. Do 8 times root 17. You don't push buttons in a calculator. You just get 8 root 17. And what's root 17 times root 17? 17. Choice A on this one. I don't know what it was on yours. Number 2, on the twin that I gave you, I drew a triangle. You don't have to draw a triangle, kids. From SOHCAHTOA, what's the sine ratio? O over H. From SOHCAHTOA, what's the cosine ratio? A over H. What's the tangent ratio? Do you see how I labeled everything? What's O? Root 7. What's A? Root 8. Saves you quite a few steps. I don't know. If I was doing this, the first thing I would do would be to simplify root 8, but most kids don't think the way I do. So how do you make this thing look a little prettier? Now, most kids would just root 8 the top and the bottom. What's the bottom piece going to be? 8. What's 7 times 8? 56. I'm sure a couple of y'all just push buttons in a calculator and saw what it was. On your EOC, when you're asked to simplify radicals, guess where that's at? The non-calculator part. You got to know how to simplify radicals, plain and simple. 2 numbers that multiply to be 56, one of which you can take the square root of. 4 and 14. Root 56 is root 4 times root 14. That's what she is. What's root 4? 2. 2 root 14 over 8. What does that reduce to? 1/4. Root 14 over 4. You know, what you could have done is you could have typed that in the calculator. If you can't do simplification of radicals, you could have typed that in the calculator, and then what could you have done with answer choices? Typed them in. That won't do you any good on your EOC. I thought this was one of the easier ones on the test, but apparently I was wrong. I gave you a little hint there. It says when using the circular approach, sine is y over r, cosine is x over r, and tangent is y over x. I didn't give you everything you needed. This talks about secant. If sine is y over r, first off, what's its reciprocal called? Cosecant. You have to memorize. And if sine is y over r, what's cosecant? R over y. What do you call the reciprocal of cosine? Secant. So if secant of cosine is x over r, secant is r over x. And if you just left these blank on a form quiz and you're not writing, we know what the problem is. If tangent is y over x, what's cotangent? There's probably a reason I'm pushing that. Nobody says tomorrow will be about secant, do they? Nobody says that. It'll be about something else, anything else. It'll be the same type of problem, different things. Now I'm asking for secant here. Secant is r over x. The secant of anything is the radius of a circle over the x-coordinate. I know at least one kid spent a whole lot of time trying to figure out the radius. I just happened to pick one up and look at it, and they spent a lot of time figuring out the radius. What's the radius? 8. What's the x-coordinate? 4 root 3. Now I would do 8 over 4 first, which is 2. Then how do you clean that up? Root 3 over root 3. And that will give you choice B on this one. That'd be 2 root 3 over 3. I wonder how many of you all got all of this one right. We'll find out. So if you're doing 4 and you had no idea what's going on, you need to check your eyes. What's above this thing? Everything you need, isn't it? It says sine is y over r, and it even told you, what's the radius of this circle? 1. So sine is actually just y. So it's right there, sine is y over r. You take negative 2 root 2 over 9, you divide it by 1, you still get negative 2 root 2. Cosine is x over r. That's all that matters, x. What's the circular approach for tangent? Y over x. Tangent of alpha is y over x. So you just take y, you divide it by x. I know I saw at least one kid give a decimal for this, which I would have given you half credit for. I said I would. I did say I'd give half credit on decimals, didn't I? I wasn't kidding. In 5th grade, you learn how to divide by a fraction. How do you divide by a fraction? Of the reciprocal. So negative 2 root 2 over 9 times what? Negative 3 over 1. Negative times a negative? Positive. 2 times 3? So 6 root 2 over 9. What's 6 over 9 reduced to? 2/3. 2 root 2 over 3. Well, then you missed it. What I do is I look for things in corresponding spots. What's 9 over 3? 3. That'd have been done right there. What you got, Tanner? I'd give partial on it. Well, you had 3 parts, right? You get 2 of them, you get 2 out of 3. What'd you get? And I just showed you how to do tangent. Get it all tomorrow. It's just y over x. Number 5, the 2 test versions differed on this angle. So the one I'm using has an angle of 26 degrees. I think the other one was 22. I don't know. You got them in front of you. So I'm going to do the work with this number. You have parked your car away from a 300-foot tall building. Your car is somewhere over here. It could be on the other side. It doesn't matter where the car is, but the car is parked away from the building. And pretend you're at the top of the building, laying down, because I didn't want to talk about how tall you were, and you're looking at your car. There's your diagram, kids. says you form an angle of depression of 26 degrees. Angles of depression are formed between your eyes and the horizon. The angle of depression is actually right here. It is. Then you go back to 8th grade math. The horizon and the ground are perpendicular, parallel. And if there's 26 degrees here, there's 26 degrees there by alternate interior angles. Yours might be 22. I don't know. There were different versions. Anyways, this is what you want. How far your car is from the building. What ratio is present? Tangent. 300 foot is opposite. X is adjacent. So the tangent of something is 300 over X. Tangent of what? 26 degrees specifically. By all means, check and make sure your calculator's in degree mode. Pre-calc is doing polar mode and they're working in radians, so I don't know. That should be checked. Anyways, the problem here is where X is. Every time you solve for X, it's where? Numerator, denominator. Numerator. How do you move X from low to high? Multiply. Multiply the right, multiply the left. Perfect cancellation on the right-hand side. I know some of y'all are bored. Bella, you probably did quite well. Sorry. But I'm not going to grade a test with substitutes present. I've already had a problem with pictures being taken. I'm sure they were out there yesterday. A couple of 7th period kids already told me they were. What are you going to divide by to solve for X? 300 over 26 degrees. This one was 615 foot. I don't know what the other one was. I don't remember. Seems reasonable. 743. Goes around nearest foot. This should have been one of your easier ones on here. You're supposed to draw negative 3.5 or whatever the other one was. I don't know. I don't even remember. Okay. How do you do it? It is in radians. You have to convert it into what? How do you convert a radian into a degree? 180 over pi all day long. You just push the buttons. You'll get an ugly decimal. And there's no point like in writing that decimal out 3 or 4 positions. There's just no point. Anybody remember a radian was worth 57.3 and do that? Is that what you did? That's good for drawing. This one's negative 200 and some change. I have no idea, Parker. I have no idea what the other test said. Ross kept asking me repetitively what the answer to the other one was. I don't know. I don't care. Just use my numbers. That make any sense? Use my numbers. Negative 200 degrees. You can keep the decimal if you want, but nobody cares. I didn't ask for it. I asked for the drawing. Why not? Can you without a protractor, could you draw this thing even to negative 200 degrees properly? Even a protractor wouldn't do the job. It only goes to 180. But I guess you could do the 20 part. I'm not giving you guys protractors. When you draw an angle, on which axis do you start? Positive X. That is a negative angle. How do negative angles rotate? Like a clock. Watch the second hand, not the hour hand. Don't be that kid. You're going to rotate right. It's kind of like righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. You're going to rotate right. Each quadrant's worth how many degrees? 90. So that'd be 180. What's left? 20. Which isn't going to get you too far. I went too far there. Pen got caught. It looks something like that. That's what it looked like. The other one was like negative 140. I don't know. You'd still be in quadrant 3. For 7 and 8, a sprinkler sprays water 120 foot if the sprinkler is rotating through an angle of 210 degrees. Did I seriously do that? Okay, I thought I didn't record. Long day, long night. Now, I know some kids last period really struggle with this. I asked what the radius was. Granted, it was my 4th period class, but it took about 4 tries. If a sprinkler went all the way around, what figure would it water? A circle. So for those of you who don't get what the radius is, this thing sprays 120 feet, and if it went all the way around, you would draw a circle, wouldn't you? So what's the radius? 120. Kids are doing funny things with that number. They're changing it. That is the radius. That's your radius. Now, the reason I'm talking about the radius is because the formula. If you didn't know the formula, where is she? She's on the answer document. You just had to know which one was which. What's the formula for arc length? R times what? R theta. What's the disclaimer about theta that wasn't mentioned? It's a radian. It has to be a radian or the formula won't work. So this angle is 210 degrees. How do I convert her into a radian? Pi over 180. In your TI-84, don't use the pi symbol. If you don't know it already, use 1 over 180. And then you convert back to a frac. Math, answer, frac. 7 over 6, don't forget about what? Pi. Some of y'all need to lay off the pi, and some of y'all need to eat the pie. 7 pi over 6. Milo, you just keep growing. You're going to be a force to be reckoned with. 6'4", what, 270, 260? 260, Jesus. You could be like a professional fighter. You could be, man. You're built for it. All right, so radius is 120, 7 pi over 6. And then you just push buttons, don't you? That's all you do. I didn't ask for exact form. I said nearest foot. There was no point in worrying about what that looked like as a pretty number. This one's 440 foot when you round. It's 0.89, 0.82. So this one's about 440 foot. Yeah, that one was kind of interesting. It ended up being the pi ratio multiplied by 100. Next part is area. Where's the formula? On the answer document, kids. What is it? 1/2 r squared theta. Do you have everything you need? Yes, you already did all the hard stuff. You figured out what the radius was. You figured out what theta was. And at that point in your life, it's just push some buttons on a calculator. Nothing more. You don't know a half is 0.5, just do 1 over 2 in a set of parentheses. And this version had an area of 26,389 square foot. I offered a small bonus if you converted to acres. Because kids see that. If I asked kids if that was a big area, they'd be like, yeah, it's huge. It's really small. How do you convert that into acres? Divide by 43560. Huh? No. Nearest square foot. Sometimes you round, sometimes you don't. Depends on what you're talking about. This is about the area of a sprinkler. Nobody wants it, but you tell some random Joe that it's 6 pi over 12 square foot. They're going to punch you in the face after they slam their beer on you. That's what they're going to do. You don't talk like that in the real world. Well, I was thinking irrigation, not necessarily a yard. That's what I was thinking. That's reasonable. Center pivot I've got sprays water about 110 at the end. Main spray does. Though it's windy, it goes quite a bit farther. Anyways, if you want to know the acres, you just divide by the square foot in an acre. It's not a hard problem. Just take the answer you got, divide it by 4356. Zero. Don't forget the zero. That one is about 6/10 of an acre, which is not much. You guys may not know how much an acre it is, but it's not much. If you took the teacher's parking lot and just thought about the asphalt in teacher's parking lot, that's probably close to half an acre. Just where the teachers park the car over here. So it's not much. Number 9, pick two angles coterminal to 155, and the hint is add or subtract 360. I guess that's what you should do, isn't it? Doesn't matter how many times you add 360. Oh, I know a lot of kids miss this when they glanced. But if you add 360 once, I don't think you're going to see the answer you need. I don't think you will. You'll get what? 515? That sounds reasonable. If you add it again, you're going to be at 875. Still don't see it. So I guess you should do what? Add it one more time. And then you'll start seeing it. That'll be 1235. That was one choice. It says pick two, doesn't it? So instead of adding, you can go back to the original problem and you can just do minus 360. And that's negative 205. This version was 2 and 4. These are a little harder. And if you watched me on the twin, I did not do this on the twin. But you should probably convert to degrees. Huh? That's not even a bad idea. Alex says what he did is he took every answer choice and he converted it into a degree. How do you convert into a degree? What do you multiply by? 180 over pi. Like that one's 660. 7 pi over 3 is 420, I believe. Pi is 180. 17 pi over 3 is on up there. It's 1760s. Did 1,000? 1120? 1020. That makes more sense. That's what I had in my head first. 1020. So that's what you're looking for. After you can do what with 5 pi over 3? So you take your 5 pi over 3, you multiply by 180 over pi, and you get 300 degrees. And then you just add or subtract what? 360. Notice there's no point in doing any subtraction. None. If you add 360, you get that one. And if you add 360 again, you get that one. It's not a bad problem, kids. It's not. Now, these will actually be uglier numbers tomorrow as far as the result. They will be. They'll be uglier numbers. You won't just be able to push buttons in a calculator and get the answer. A couple of you might know what I mean by that. Anybody know what I mean by that? Okay, well, we'll talk about that. What do you need to do with 5 pi over 6? Convert it to degrees. That's actually one you're asked to memorize, isn't it? Not that you did. It's been 150 degrees my entire life. I assume it will always be 150 degrees. That's something that's drawable. We do ASTC as well. ASTC might let you eliminate a choice, by the way. It might let you eliminate two things. You rotate 150 degrees, you'll be in quadrant 2. Now, the reason I mention ASTC is because what's here? There's an S, which stands for what two things? Sine and cosecant are positive. If I understand ASTC, I went from a 1 in 4 guess to a 1 in 2 guess. Because I get to take both these negative answers and throw them out the window. That's what ASTC does for you. Makes a multiple guess a lot more in your odds. Now, this was 150 degrees of rotation. What was left of rotation to get to the x-axis? 30. And if you'll look in the bottom right-hand corner of the answer document, you will see a 30, 60, 90. Or a 45, I'm not sure. One of them's there. Well, I mean, one of them's in the bottom. I don't remember if it's 30, 60, 90 or the 45, 45, 90. Opposite of a 30-degree angle is a 1. Opposite of a 60-degree angle is a root 3, and the hypotenuse is 2. So I just triangle my angle out. What's going to be opposite of 30 degrees? Cosecant. The positive. The S in all strippers takes cash is for sine and cosecant. What's T for? Tangent, cotangent. What's C for? Cosine, secant. And again, they're positive, which means everything else is negative. Anyways, back to my little triangle here. What's opposite of a 30-degree angle? 1. What's adjacent? That's why I said direction is important. It's negative. And what's the hypotenuse? 2. Now, sine says O, cosecant is a O. I want hypotenuse over opposite. 2 over 1. All day long. Anybody know how to cheat in the calculator? It won't give you the right answer tomorrow, but it'll let you know if you're right or not. In addition to cosecant being a hoe, I don't know why I wrote it like that. Writing it like that again. Cosecant of something is a hoe. It's also 1 over what? Sine. So I found out that this was a 150-degree angle. I can put it right there. Didn't I do this in a calculator hint video? I thought I did. I can type in 1 over the sine of 150 and get a 2. Now, tomorrow I can guarantee you that this comes up with a radical answer. But you can still type the radical in the calculator, see what it is as decimal, can't you? And then see if it agrees with this thought process. You understand that? It'll still let you check your work. Bell's about to ring, isn't it? What I didn't do in class was already posted to the classroom. I have worked out this entire thing. Maybe with different numbers than what you're holding. But you're all doing a retake tomorrow. Do you though?